va continuer et compléter ça avec l'intervention d'Enzo Favoino, voilà, qui est le coordinateur scientifique de ZeroWasteEurope et qui va nous parler des modalités plus pratiques, plus techniques de la mise en place d'une démarche Zero Waste.
First of all, thank you for this one. I see so many smiling people in the room, and this makes me extremely happy. So let's start with one thing first. Please smile. Good, don't worry, I'm gonna take you all on Facebook. I will pick your names. Rest assured I'm gonna take you all on Facebook. Okay, so we have got the next big challenge ahead of us. And the next big challenge will not be to learn the language of the future, which is Italian. You know? But don't worry, we are still living in the present, so I can be speaking today the language of the past, mainly English. J'entends le français pour votre question, mais je ne le parle pas trop bien. The next big challenge will be to fight what we call received wisdom, what we call the common sense in waste management. And the common sense normally tells us, yes, you can do separate collection, you can do waste reduction, but in the end of the story, you will still have something to dispose of. And normally, they used to tell us, yeah, with separate collection, you may go up to 30%. And then we pushed it further, and they told us, yeah, not more than 50%. And now some of them may accept 60 or 70%. But still they say, you can't go beyond that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And if I take a look at, but should I point the pointer to go? Okay. If I take a look at the historical background of my personal and professional commitment to separate collection, you know, we started as early as the early 90s to implement separate collection of food waste when nobody thought it was possible, it was viable in Italy, because they said, the dirty Italians. The dirty Italians can play with dirt. And we did separate collection. And we did a big jump. We call collection at the doorstep the springboard towards zero waste, because with collection at the doorstep, you can go up to 65, 70, 75% quite easily. Then a few years later, we introduced a transparent bag in order to send a sign to people, not only do we want you to collect separately clean materials, but also we expect you to put everything which is recyclable and compostable in the proper streams. And so we went up for a further 10%. Then a few years later, we introduced the pay-as-you-throw systems, the paper bag, the paper bin. And with pay-as-you-throw, we went further up by 5 or 10%. Now we have got the zero-waste municipalities with continued emphasis on redesigning of the system, continuous assessment of what's left up in residual waste in order to have a further optimization of separate collection and of waste reduction practices. And these municipalities are targeting 90%. In some cases, they are already there. So basically, this means the sentence we have coined at the international level to drag the attention towards the continued commitment to never surrender to the idea that there is something which is not recyclable, compostable, reusable, or reusable. Zero waste, it's more the travel than the final destination. It is a methodology. It's a list of actions, practices to be put in place. And it keeps you committed to do more and more, better and better, and to have a never minimizing amount of residual waste. So it's like chasing utopia, you know. Probably you know when the young apprentice asks the wise man, he says, "Tell me, master, what is utopia?" And the master tells the apprentice, "Look, utopia is that thing which is 10 steps ahead of you, And then you move those 10 steps to get there, but Utopia in the meantime has moved a little bit further. And then you move another few steps to chase it. And it has moved a little bit further, and you move, and so on and so forth. And the apprentice says, okay, master, I understand what is Utopia, but what is it for? And the master says, Utopia makes you work. And that's the most important. Keep working, keep committed, keep focused on a never minimizing amount of residual waste. That's zero waste. Okay, let's go. There should be probably better ways to describe the efforts and the success we have on zero waste. We have been talking so far mostly about separate collection rates, percentages. But a percentage is a percentage. It may be a percentage of a small amount, a percentage of a big amount. Probably we should be playing with different parameters. Also because we know that the best waste is the waste which is not produced in first hand. And if we only consider the separate collection rates, you know, there would be no emphasis on home composting, for instance, because it would drag away some organics for the separate collection rates. There would be no effort on water from the tap, because it would drag away some plastics for separate collection. So we should be using parameters which better blend the efforts on reduction, reuse, and separate collection. This is a chart which describes the situation in one of our Zero Waste champions. We are going to have a presentation by Paolo Conto. This is a waste management district which is similar to a prefecture, 15 municipalities, more than 500,000 people. And they have achieved on the average, this was related to 2012, in 2013 they went up to 85%. But more importantly, the amount of residual waste in kilograms per inhabitant and year in 2013 has fallen below the psychological target of 50 kilograms per inhabitant and year. 50 kilograms. Well, it's not zero, but it's damn close to zero. And this is what we are aiming for. But in order to have continued efforts on continued redesign of the system, we need to keep the system flexible and adaptable. And here we have one of the most important truths in zero waste. Fighting incineration, it's not ideological. It's not only ideological, because it's a waste of resources, of course. Closing an incinerator is not the final goal of zero waste, but it's the intrinsic condition in order to have a zero waste strategy in place. Because if you have an incinerator, you will need to feed the monster. And that's the problem. It's a deliver or pay contract. So you need to produce a certain amount of mixed garbage to feed the monster. This is why zero waste and incineration will never go hand in hand. Okay, in any case, zero waste is providing the best interpretation of the drivers, the messages which are coming from different angles of European environmental policy, and not only environmental policy. We know there were two very important resolutions which were passed by the European Parliament in 2012. For instance, this one dating back to April the 20th, 2012, states that the Parliament calls on the European Commission during the revision of the waste policy, which will take place in 2014, this very year, to table ever-increasing recycling targets. For the moment, we have got the 50% recycling target, but they say it's not sufficient. We should be doing more than that. And also, we should be considering also quantitative targets for waste reduction. For the moment, we've only got a mandate of member states to prepare national waste prevention programs. But we don't have a quantitative target at European level. We will be fighting in order to have a quantitative target tabled, because the best waste is the waste which is not produced. But why are European institutions so much focused on ever-increasing recycling targets and better efforts on waste reduction? Because we have got the resource scarcity crisis. This is not only related to environmental sustainability. This is an economic threat. The growing economies mind China, mind India, Russia, Brazil. They are exerting a huge pressure on the international market of primary raw materials. We Europeans, we are in a comparatively small piece of earth. We are a comparatively small population, and so far we have been taking up most of the resources from the world. And we can't go on like that. You know, Chinese people, they say, we come first. We are 1.5 billion people. Indian people, they say, we are 1 billion people. We need to use the resources. And this is why old wise Europe starts thinking about trawling deep in the trash can to see what's in there, which may be profitably recovered to give further supplies to industrial production. It's a matter of strategic independence of the industrial production in Europe. And there are two signs of this. First of all, the big advisory companies worldwide, they have started ranking investments in different areas according to the recycling capability of a given territory. Because they say the capability to recycle more and more will translate into a secure of supplies to the industrial production. You get more independent from the international market of primary raw materials. A second sign, there is, well, actually there used to be a very big car maker in Italy, Fiat. Now it's becoming Dutch, because they say they pay less taxes in the Netherlands. It might be like that. In any case, Fiat, they had to stop the factories for 3 days a few months ago because they were lacking plastics in order to make the inner shapes of the cars. And that's incredible, you know. We were banging our heads against the wall because we were considering how many plastics are ending up in incinerators and in landfills. That's simply incredible. It's stupid. And this is why we can link up to the resource scarcity crisis to say we are doing the only and wise thing, which is recovering as much as possible in order to secure the supplies to the industrial production. Let's go on. Why zero waste is overcoming the waste hierarchy at European level? There's different ways to describe zero waste. Please refer for more in-depth analysis of what belongs to zero waste and what does not belong to zero waste. Please refer to the only peer-reviewed document, which is the zero waste hierarchy we approved in San Francisco in March 2013. In any case, you have considered the 10 steps, which is the colorful way that Rossano describes powerfully the power and the tools for zero waste. I like very much the 5 R's. And 3 R's are already embedded in the European zero waste, in the European waste hierarchy. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Okay, we are fully in line with the European waste hierarchy. Then, according to European waste policy, they say, okay, you may go up to 60, 70, 80%, then you will have some residual waste, and you can get some energy from that. We say, well, first of all, there is another R, which is rot. We don't have the corresponding word in French nor in Italian. Rot means degrade your organic matter, make compost. It's still belonging to recycling anyway. But then comes the most important part. When we get to 60 or 70 or 80%, that's where we start having fun. We are not happy with that. We want to go on. We want to do better and more. And therefore, there is the 5th R, the most important of zero waste, which overcomes the European waste hierarchy, which is redesign. And you have to redesign your system in 2 particular angles. Keep assessing what's left in your residual waste at the local level in order to have continued improvement, continued optimization of your local reduction practices and of your local separate collection systems. And then there is a second very important implication of redesign. Give responsibility to the industry. Because when we get to 80 or 90%, we did whatever was in our possibility. And then it's time for the industrial production to take on the responsibility. If there is something which cannot be recycled today, that cannot be reused today, that cannot be composted today, you have to make it more reusable, compostable, recyclable, or we phase it out from production. That's the most important. Let's go on. What does it take to get to very high separate collection and recycling levels? Yeah, this is it gives you in a nutshell what are the jumps towards zero. And the biggest jump is, of course, la collecte sélective porte à porte de la fraction fermentation, la FFOA. The separate collection of organic waste. They say it's not feasible. Bullshit. Then they told us it's not feasible in large towns. Equally bullshit. I'm not feeling homesick today because I've seen some pictures from the previous session that there was the Le Bac Bio from Milan. So, you know, this is in my daily life and I was not feeling homesick. But in any case, you know, in Milan, this is popular houses in Milan, and they are doing separate collection of food waste. It's more than 1 million people. And it's showing it's fully practicable and economically viable even in densely populated areas. We didn't have to wait for Milan to start anyway, because we started in 1995 to perform separate collection of organic waste in the big and densely populated municipalities around Milan, such as Cniid, Balsamo, Bresso, Cormano. They look like Bobigny, you know, very densely populated, high-rise buildings, lots of immigrants. But we did separate collection, including food waste. Certainly, Milan makes lots of noise. So we can use the Milan case to tell everybody, to tell la mairie de Paris, you have to do separate collection of food waste because it's feasible. You can do that. These are the results in Milan. You can see these are the results in kilograms per person and week. It's around 90 kilograms per inhabitant a year. In Milan itself, it will be around 130,000 tons diverted from incineration and landfilling to composting and anaerobic digestion. Okay, economic implications. Let me go towards the end. Sometimes they tell us, okay, this is a nice game, guys, but it's a very expensive game. Bullshit. Equally bullshit. This is the official survey which was issued by Region Lombardy. Region Lombardy is the most populated region in Italy, 10 million inhabitants, 1,547 municipalities. So it's an impressive statistical basis. Each dot corresponds to a single municipality. And you have on the axis there the separate collection rates, and there you have got the unit cost in euros per inhabitant a year, which is transferred to the population. Collection, transportation, processing, recycling, and disposal of residual waste. So you may be puzzled, you may like to know which dot corresponds to Milan. How keen are you on geography? So you might try and find it. Yeah, apart from that, two main informations coming from the chart. First of all, in order to have the highest separate collection rates, you need to implement porta porta, means collection at the doorstep. There's no way to get to 70–80% with a bring system. Le point d'apport volontaire, you say in French. But the second and most important information we may retrieve from this is that the higher separate collection rates, the lower the tendency to the cost. And this is even more incredibly and powerfully depicted in this further chart, which groups the 1,547 municipalities from Lombardy into different clusters according to their separate collection level, less than 20%, between 20 and 30, up to 70% and more. And it shows, first of all, there is no net increase in the cost of collection. The green bars are the cost of collection. So you may implement a performing and effective and operational operationally optimized separate collection system with no remarkable increase in the cost of collection itself. And in any case, there are huge savings which are transferred to the population because you decrease by far the reliance on landfilling and incineration. And in Europe, landfilling and incineration are bound to be more and more expensive, because otherwise it would be our legacy, our cost legacy to the next generation, and we can't afford it. So not only it's practicable, not only it's feasible, effective, it's also cost effective, and this is the primary reason why collection at the doorstep is being increasingly widespread as a matter of good budgetary management in our municipalities. I think in France it's a similar situation to Italy. In Italy, the cost of waste management ranks as the first or the second cost item in the municipal budget. So managing your waste properly implies saving resources for schools, housing, transportation, hospitals, whatever. Okay, the last bit in my presentation, what is the next threat? Be advised, be warned. Maybe you have been shown this chart quite often in your local debates, in your local confrontation. This is based on Eurostat numbers. Eurostat numbers are wrong by default. Is there anybody working at Eurostat here in the room, by the way? No, okay. They're wrong because they collate numbers coming from different countries with different statistical bases, yeah. But already embedded in European waste policy, but nobody says that explicitly. And we are here to shout about that. We have to make it clear. First of all, it goes against the need to tackle the resource scarcity crisis. But also, consider the second point. Is there a pointer here? There's one. Because on life cycle basis, they say, okay, but with incineration we produce a certain amount of renewable energy.